Hello, I am Jennifer Lynn Bursell, aka Ever-Tuning Butterfly, bringing to you Living with an Invisible Learning Challenge, where we will discuss the challenges and triumphs of those with NLD. I don't know if you're a new listener or not, but I would like to share with you where I get most of my articles for this podcast. I've recently learned about a nonprofit that I would really like to help. It's the NVLD project. In addition to doing research on NVLD and working to get it back on the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, that is the DSM, they provide support groups for those with NVLD. You can find the NVLD project at www.nvld.org. All proceeds from this podcast and the ads will go towards the NVLD project. I will include the link for this in the description of the podcast. Please go to livingwithnld.com to learn more about my podcast. Also, I would like to announce that I now have created a YouTube channel for this podcast. I will post the link for this in the description for you. I'm going to go back to all the solos from 2020 and improve the sound quality. I also want to add more research to them to make them be consistent in length with more recent episodes. I know this will take a while to do, but I know it will be worth it because I want to improve the quality of them. Today's episode is about chronic pain from migraines while having NVLD. The article from the NVLD project that I want to share with you is titled Resilience, and the author of it is Matthew. He talks about his life with NVLD and what people do and don't know about it in this article. Quote, "This disorder has impacted my life in a variety of ways, some positive and some negative. I have a diverse professional background to include military service and law enforcement. With that said, I am currently focusing on education as well as becoming a foreign service officer. I am a proud Navy spouse and as such have moved 3 times in the past 3 years. NVLD has impacted my professional and academic life and has taught me how to be resilient, and I have chosen to maintain a positive outlook in regards to this disorder. I have created a YouTube channel in order to bring about a positive outlook for this and other neuroatypicals and also to raise awareness," end quote. I will definitely provide the link for you for that YouTube channel in the description of this podcast. Quote, "Resilience merely defined as the ability to overcome difficulties, toughness. This word I learned from a very young age and have frequently used and demonstrated for as long as I can remember. Allow me to explain. As many of you know, I was diagnosed with a learning disorder, which is called nonverbal learning disorder. This disorder becomes an instant obstacle manifesting itself in everyday life. Obstacles can be things such as places, especially parking lots. It can impact your life in ways such as struggling with homework, in school, and in sports. Later, as a young adult, this would impact my professional careers as well in ways I had never imagined." End quote. I can relate to Matthew because one of the things I haven't shared with you that I think is major that I haven't shared with the podcast audience that I've been trying to cope with the past 7 years is the chronic pain of migraines. And these started when I was a freshman in college. And I have one right now, so it's not easy for me to record this episode. Whew, deep breath. And I even had one when I was trying to write the script of this podcast. Oh, for joy. So, when the migraine started, which was when I was in college, which was in 2014, and it's now 2021. So, like I said, that was 7 years ago. I thought they were just headaches because I didn't know anything about migraines, and I thought they would go away when I graduated because I thought the cause of them was the stress of college. And to give some background for you guys, um, like I said in the last episode, I was homeschooled in an online charter school. And I think college was more stressful for me, even with the NLD, because I was adjusting from going to an online school to going to a physical public school and being and reminding myself, oh, yes, I have to walk to school. And also realizing I'm not the only one in class. I might have 20 other people with me if it's a small discussion group, or I might have 500 other people with me if it's a big lecture group. So, those were some of the challenges that I dealt with when I was going to college. So, little did I know that I was wrong, that they didn't stop when I graduated. When I was in college, I had them every day. All I could do to cope was run or walk my dog Truffles and take ibuprofen and drink peppermint tea. Those were the only things that worked when I was in college because I Googled what to do with headaches, and those were the things that came up. And when you're a college student, you don't want to spend that much money. So that's what I did. I drank peppermint tea basically every day and took ibuprofen. That might sound weird, but it worked. And I ran, which also worked because it got rid of stress. And I love the endorphins from running, so hey, it worked. But once I graduated, I realized the migraines didn't stop. Go figure. So I decided to find out what was causing them. I talked to my doctor about them. She recommended a neurologist to me, and I got an MRI. Luckily, nothing showed up on the MRI that was abnormal, like no tumors or anything that could cause the migraines. And when I met my neurologist, I told him as many details as I could think of that might cause them, like stress, weather changes, and because I'm a girl, being on my period. The only thing that I didn't mention was NVLD because I didn't think it was relevant at the time. But I do now because the migraine started when I was in college, which is when I discovered I had NLD. I mean, that I have NVLD. And the stress level increased because of college and because having NVLD and knowing that I had it. Not saying that I wish I didn't have NVLD because that's not true. It has made me who I am today, a strong woman who who has been able to tackle any challenge that NVLD has thrown at her so far, and is a smart cookie. I suggest that you should listen to The Healing by Tim Chiasson because that expresses what people with chronic pain are waiting for. And just as a side note, I don't know if any of you in the audience deal with chronic pain, but if you do, I'm sorry, because I know from personal experience it can be frustrating if you try a lot of things that don't work and it just seems like trial and error, which it has been for me. You might get frustrated and lose hope and be like, am I going to live with this for the rest of my life? And is anything going to work? And, you know, yeah. So to make a long story shorter, I eventually got 3 prescriptions that my neurologist suggested I take to help my migraines. I take topiramate, amitriptyline, and verapamil. I also occasionally take Zofran when I feel nauseous and I have a migraine. These have worked for about 2 years for managing the intensity, frequency, and length of my migraines. I would say that I still have more than 15 a month, but probably not 30 anymore, or at least not to the same degree as they were in college. And this month, I started a new prescription called Amivic, which is a self-injection that you use once a month. I'm looking forward to the results of it because when I was doing research about it, said, uh, people who use it said that after a few months of being on it, they saw their number of migraines decrease by half, which would be huge for me. So I want to share with you what it was like for me to give uh, myself an injection. Um, it was not too hard, but I was a little nervous because I thought it might hurt. I've gotten shots for vaccines like the flu vaccine, and I think I got the um, TBD vaccine. I think that stands for typhoid or something like that. I forget what that stands for. Um, or tetanus vaccine. I think that's what it stood for. But anyways, when I was doing the Amivic injection, I asked the nurse, "Does it feel like a shot?" Because I wanted something to compare it to. And he said, "It actually should feel less than that because the needle is thinner than a shot needle." I was like, "Okay, that helps." And if any of you have seen an EpiPen, that's the same shape of an Amivic injection, just to give you an idea of what it looks like. So I was in the nurse's office because I went in person to do it, because that's the only way they could teach me. They can't teach you over the phone. Well, they probably could, but it would have been more difficult, I think. So went in person, of course, wearing a mask because of COVID, being very safe. And the nurse was wearing a mask also, and face shield also. So very safe. Um, and he gave me a dumbing pen to practice. So no injection in there, no Amivic, just fake. And I pushed it on my thigh so I could feel what the pressure would be like. And you click on top to activate it. And you hold it on your thigh for about, I would say it feels about like a minute. It might be less, but feels like that. And then you wait for the window that you see there to be completely yellow. And then you hold it there for 5 seconds to make sure all the injection has gone in your thigh. And then you take it away, and there might be a little bit of blood. So you apply pressure, and then you're done. So that's what I did with the injection. And when I did the real thing, which is what I just described to you, was actually what you do with the real thing also. It wasn't that bad. It didn't hurt that much, because the needle, like the nurse said, is thinner than a shot needle. So I did it in my thigh because I have pretty big thighs from running. So I knew that wouldn't hurt as much as doing it in my abdomen, which is the other place you can do it. Because I don't have that much fat on my abdomen, so I thought I would feel it more if I did it there. So I did it on my thigh, and like I said, it felt like it was about a minute long. And there's a little window in the EpiPen because they want you to be able to see how long you have to hold it upright in your thigh. Well, not in your thigh, but on top of your thigh, um, so that all the injection goes into your thigh. And you'll wait for that window to become completely yellow while it's going into your body. Um, and then once that happens, you're done after you wait 5 seconds, and then you're good to go. So I'm looking forward to the results of that. And I know that when I'm on my period, they're usually a little worse and they usually seem like they're never ending. And so for you people out there who have chronic pain and have NVLD, I wouldn't mind being the first person to have some research done on about that because I think there might be some correlation with those two things. And it'd be great if they could get women, especially because I think women who have migraines don't get that much research on, unfortunately. At least that's what one of my friends told me. And I think that should be changed. So I look forward to the day when my life is not ruled by migraines and I don't have to constantly be mindful of how my voice might sound because of it being harsh or edgy. And you should also listen to the sound Pick Me Up and Dust Me Off by Carleton Stone because that song describes what I have felt like and feel now having had chronic pain for 7 years. So, whether you have chronic pain or are resilient because of having NLD, I and others who have it still have these issues today. And so, as I wrap up today, I would love to know what is the story you have if you have chronic pain, or if you are resilient because of having NLD in your life. And I'm sure you are resilient because you kind of have to be if you have NLD. It can be frustrating to have it and kind of be depressing at times. So please share to the level of comfortability that you have. If you're listening on Spotify, you can send me an email at livingwithnld@gmail.com. Or if you listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, please leave the answer and a review for me. Or if it's too personal, you can email me as well. And if you are listening on livingwithnld.com, you can comment on the episode on the podcast page, or you can email me again if you feel that is more private for you. And thank you for listening today, and I will talk to you next Friday. Bye. As I wrap up, there are some things I would like to share with you. I do have a website for the podcast. It is called livingwithnld.com. I also have a Facebook and Instagram page for this podcast called Living with NLD. I will include the links for those in the description. I also have an email for the podcast. It is called livingwithnld@gmail.com. Please email me if you know somebody with NLD that may want to be interviewed for the podcast, or if you personally have NLD and would want to be interviewed. I know I'm not an expert, but I do know I have the living experience of having NLD. Please let me know what kind of things you would like to learn about NLD. Also, I would love for you to practice journaling about your gifts and differences. See if there is a way that you can make that difference become easier for you to do than it originally was. And please feel free to go on YouTube and leave comments for me to respond to. I will respond to them as quickly as I can. And I also left the email on there for you to refer to. And thank you for listening today. I will talk to you next Friday.